Come and See is a Russian World War II anti-war film that came out in 1985 that's directed by Elim Klimov. So Come and See was part of last week's poll, and it won by a pretty fair margin. I think the only film that really even had a chance was The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. And I'm also going to be reviewing that film tomorrow, so please be on the lookout for that. And like I say in every single one of these poll reviews, I'm really happy with all these votes. I am just absolutely flattered that all these polls are getting over 100 votes. And if you voted on that poll and you're watching this video, I would highly appreciate a like for this video from you guys, especially if you've enjoyed all the poll reviews that I've done this far. It would really mean a lot. To be honest, I had no idea that this film even existed until maybe like a year ago. My cousin Eric introduced me to it, and he's been telling me to watch it for the longest time. And at this point in the Kino community, it really seems like it's an incredibly popular war film that has so much name recognition. And at this point, it seems like one of the essential war films, because every time I bring up war films, this is like at the top of the list from somebody who's trying to recommend me films. So this is a Russian film, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The only Russian films that I've seen before this are Tarkovsky films. I've seen Solaris and Stalker. I plan to see other ones like Mirror. I do have reviews on those films if you want to check those out. But the point is that I really haven't seen that many Russian films. So with all the buzz going into this and the fact that I really haven't seen that much Russian cinema, I really went into this expecting nothing less than a cinematic experience. And after watching it, I can truly say that it was a cinematic experience. Unlike almost anything that I've ever experienced before, because it has such incredible staying power, such emotional staying power that just really sticks with you. Because like, I'm gonna be honest, the first act of this film, and even like in some of the second act, I liked what I was seeing, but at the same time, I still had current reservations about it, because there were certain things about it that I just wasn't all in for. I think some of the acting here and there just fell a little flat for me in terms of some of the fake laughter and some of the crying that was happening. I guess it didn't really convince me all the way. And there was just some like continuity, slight continuity issues that were just noticeable to me while I was watching it. But I was still digging the film. It's just, with all the buzz going into it and with all the praise that it was getting, I guess I just expected to be like fully engrossed into what I was watching by the first and second act. But I still really enjoyed the first and second act. Don't get me wrong. Like, there was so much there that I was still appreciating and respecting from a filmmaking perspective. But after seeing the whole thing, I can still easily sit here and tell you that the entire first act and some of the second act are the weaker aspects of the film, because what it builds up to was some of the most emotionally traumatizing but yet emotionally powerful pieces of cinema that I've really almost ever seen, because it just is relentless. Like, this film is absolutely relentless. It's brutally honest with everything that it's trying to tell you, and it leaves no stone unturned. It just goes all the way with trying to express, what their country went through, which honestly, like, you don't really hear much about the Nazis invading Russia and the kind of sadistic brutality that they inflicted on their people, because there's a fact that's presented in the end of this film that tells you that like over 680 Russian villages were burnt to the ground. And you really don't hear a lot about that when it comes to World War II history. And to just cinematically experience in the way that the director put it together for you there in the third act was just so traumatizing, but yet so informative at the same time, because it's one of those things to where it's not like the funnest to watch. Like, this is not even near what I would call a fun movie. This is a film that after you're done watching it, you're just going to be sitting around thinking, and it's just going to be sticking with you. But it's not the fact that it just shows you a lot of really messed up stuff on screen that really just grabs you emotionally and just makes you question humanity. It's how the director presents it. Like, it's how it's directed. It's how he utilizes sound design. It's how he uses objects and uses characters within the framing of the camera and the entire blocking of the scene. And just there's a lot of symbolic imagery too in the third act and all of its brutality. But it's how, basically what I'm getting at, it's how the director is presenting this entire awful, horrific, traumatic situation that really, really gets you emotionally and really sticks in your mind for a very long time. Because the aesthetic direction in this is nearly flawless. Like, I really couldn't really critique the camera work or the sound design because it's all utilized so incredibly well. It's incredibly immersive. And like, as beautiful as the camera work is, because there are just some beautiful shots in this film, though this wallpaper included, the sound design, I think, might be the strongest aspect of this film. Because the way that he utilizes sound, just scene by scene by scene, especially in that third act, and even some of the first act, is just so incredibly engrossing. It really tries to get you inside the mind of somebody who's experiencing these kinds of horrific events and is just trying to survive. He really utilizes the sound design of the camera work to turn this film into a really personal psychological experience that, again, like, no one can say that you've really experienced that unless you've actually been in something like that, obviously. But this is the closest thing to really trying to experience that without actually going to a museum and looking at it, and also having to actually be there, because he just does such a good job at, again, really psychologically immersing you into what is happening here. But the acting performance, especially in the third act, from the young boy Alexei Kravinchenko, I think that's how you say it. Probably not, definitely not. What he's able to portray just through his face is just mind-boggling, because there's this one scene that it's a really famous shot that's in most of the posters that I've seen, where there's a gun to his head. That actual scene, when I watched it, there was so much context there, and it was really more than what I thought it was going to be. I think that scene is arguably one of the best shots and one of the best scenes in war movie history, because it's just so telling about humanity. It's incredibly intense. It's incredibly well acted. And it's one of those scenes that really makes you punch a Nazi if you ever see one. I don't condone it. I'm not saying I really condone that, but I'm just saying that's what that scene kind of made me want to do. But yeah, the third act to this film, it's probably the most intense and the most emotionally traumatic and emotionally heartbreaking third act in a war film that I personally ever seen. And especially like with the ending, like the actual ending of this film, I absolutely loved, because it was really creative on how it went about showing something thematically and showing something in terms of his character, and just showing something that really gets everybody to look at the entire picture in a certain way. And I just love the direction he went with that, because, again, that is something that I personally just haven't seen in a war movie before. And, you know, it takes creativity to do something like that. It really takes somebody to really go there and kind of do their own thing and hope that, you know, the audience clings to it. And I just think it really works. Like, it works emotionally, it works thematically, and I just think it was a brilliant artistic choice, whether it came from the writer or the director. I really, really love the way that this film ended. Like, the last 5 minutes or so of this film, I thought was absolutely incredible. To me, this is an incredibly important film. I think really everybody should watch this film. Obviously, if you're too young, you shouldn't watch it, but if you're old enough, you should really watch this film. This is a really informative and just emotionally haunting film that, you know, really make sure that we don't forget how sadistic and twisted and unempathetic the human race can be. And this is the kind of stuff that just we always have to remember. We cannot forget how ugly we can get. And I just love this film's brutal honesty and how well it was able to portray, and all of its gruesomeness and all of its violence. It just felt so necessary, and this just felt like a story that was dying to be told and really needed to be told, because when I went into this film, I didn't know anything about the Nazi invasion into Russia. I knew nothing about that, so I felt like I really, really learned something that I didn't know. And I just think this is a really, really important film that really everybody over the certain age that you think is mature enough should watch. So yeah, even though I had some issues with the first act and maybe some of the second act, what it builds up to is absolutely profound and just so emotionally haunting and incredibly intense that it really just overshadows most of the issues that I really even had. I'm wondering if I watch it again, if I'll even have any issues with that stuff. But I'm going to give Come and See a 9 out of 10. I'm definitely going to be buying it when the remastered Criterion version comes out. I don't remember exactly when it's coming out, but I heard it's coming out soon. And I'm buying the shit out of that film because I definitely want it for my collection. And again, guys, like, go into this film knowing that it's going to be absolutely unforgiving with what it's showing you. But I think it's absolutely necessary, and I think it's directed in a way that, again, it captures something in a way that I feel like is incredibly earned, and it has a lot of artistic integrity behind it. And I really, really love that aspect about this film. So those are my thoughts on Come and See. I would really love to hear your thoughts about this film if you've seen it already. And if you have any requests for the next poll that I'll be putting up tomorrow night, please let it be known in the comments section. I would love to see all of them. And make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow when I put out a review for The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I watched that film, and I really cannot wait to talk about that film as well. So yeah, if you really enjoyed this review, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.